Good morning. Just a few announcements before we get started. We have a lot of activities at the church as spring springs around us. On this coming Wednesday from noon to 2 is the next installment of the workshop, Who Me, an Elder, which is being run by Karen Peterson and Reverend Janet. Pack a lunch and join the group in the historical room. On Friday at 3 p.m., there will be a celebration of the life of Bill Jackson here at the church. Sunday in a week, April 23rd, the Gloucester Meeting House Foundation is presenting The Color of Light, narrated videos about lesser-known Cape Ann artists. That's at, I'm not sure what time. Does anyone know what time that is on? It's in the weekly newsletter, so you can check it. But I know it's a week from Sunday, probably 3 o'clock. Monday week, April 24th, the book club will be meeting again for a discussion of Jojo Moyes's The Giver of Stars, about the horseback librarians of Kentucky in the 1930s. It's a great book, a great read. I recommend you joining that group too. Looking forward somewhat, there will be a prospective member lunch with Reverend Janet on May 7th for those of you who are thinking about membership. There will be a field trip to the Peabody Essex Museum on May 20th to view the current exhibit, Climate Action Inspiring Change. New Member Sunday and the Flower Sunday will be on June 4th, and it's an anniversary of sorts of the Flower Sunday, so I think it's going to be a really fabulous service that Janet is planning. The collection of socks and underwear for various charities in town is going well and is ongoing. See the newsletter for full details about how to contribute, or just see Holly Tangway, who's up in the choir loft, during the lunch, which is the final mention on the announcements today. Today is Lunch Sunday, so there will be a lunch provided downstairs in the vestry for anyone. Please join us downstairs after the service for that, and coffee as well. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our visiting minister, Caro Barshow. Barshow? Got it. Welcome.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Gloucester, Massachusetts. My name is Caro Barshow. I'll be your guest minister for the day, and I'll be leading worship with our worship associate, Pat Johnson, and with the beautiful music of the choir under the direction of Andy Mull. So your settled minister, the Reverend Janet Parsons, is away today, and she'll return next week. A little about myself. I am completing a 2-year ministerial internship at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashua, New Hampshire, where I'll be ordained in June, along with support from my home congregation in Portland, Maine. I am passionate about compassion, creativity, and embodiment. I understand that you are worshiping on the theme of resistance in the month of April. I hope that today's worship will explore some of the spiritual lessons of Buddhism that may help overcome inner resistance and help us to cultivate compassion and patience for facing resistance from the world. My Buddhist practice began in earnest in the last 10 years. I am a student of the Insight meditation tradition, and I've been studying mindfulness and yoga for the past 15 years. I hope that I'll get to meet and connect with you all during lunch after the service. Words to call us to worship today by Daniel Chesney Cantor. To love life is to notice the wonders that abound, and to notice the wonders that abound is to be grounded here and now. And to be grounded here and now is the beginning of finding love in this life today. Won't you join me in singing our opening hymn? It's in our gray hymn book, number 298, Wake Now My Senses. You're welcome to rise in spirit or in body.
Wake
Universalist faith tradition, we begin our services with the ritual of lighting our flaming chalice. If you have a candle prepared at home today, please light it with me now. Let's now say the affirmation that's printed in the order of service for the lighting of our chalice. In the light of truth and warmth
of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
And as we have done each week since the invasion of Ukraine, we light a peace candle today for all those who need it. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
In Buddhism, the Buddha taught that there are 6 sense doors, or perceptual gateways, constantly opening us to our human experience. So you might be familiar with the 5 senses: seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. And to that, the Buddha would add the mind door. And the mind door includes our thoughts, our emotions, and our mental images. What happens to our sense doors is that they can become cluttered or clouded. And sometimes that has to do with just one sense. Like after you eat a lot of sugary candy, have you ever tried to eat a piece of fresh fruit? Doesn't quite taste the same. Doesn't quite have that sweetness or that specialness when our taste buds are blocked by sugar, sugar, sugar. And the same thing can happen to our sense doors all at the same time. More than one can become cluttered. Think about if you are playing a video game or a phone game or watching a few hours of television. Your eyes get tired, your body might get sore from lack of movement, and your mind might get tired from all that stimulation. Now, when our sense doors get cluttered, particularly our sense of mind, we are at risk for losing touch with our will and our true emotions. We can become stuck in habits or susceptible to suggestions. We can become depressed or anxious. And our courage to live wholeheartedly can wane. Now, spiritual practices of all kinds are ways that we take care of our senses. For some, it might be going on a walk along the beach and hearing the sound of the tide, clearing our sense of hearing, smelling that salt air, getting that freshness, reviving our senses. For others, a spiritual practice might be something like knitting, that repetition that brings us back to our body. For others, it might be saying a prayer, singing a song, or maybe dancing, becoming alive in the body again. Meditation is another practice to clear our sense doors when they get clouded or cluttered. So I'd like to share 2 tools that you could add to your meditation toolbox to grow it or maybe to begin it. First, I want to teach you a sacred hand gesture called a mudra. This one is called the Abhaya Mudra, and it's the gesture of fearlessness. And I'll invite you to try it with me. Often statues and artwork of the Buddha will show him with his right hand in this position. And mudras like this, they've been passed down for thousands of years in South Asia and are part of Hindu and Buddhist practices. So for the Abhaya Mudra, if you'd like to try it, you can kind of relax your right side. Maybe relax your right shoulder, relax your right elbow and wrist. See if your fingers can kind of loosen up. Now we're going to lift up our arm at the elbow. And then you can put the fingers of your hands together and see if you can move your thumb close to your fingers. That might not be comfortable for everyone, so it's okay if that is not your expression of Abhaya Mudra today. Let's just try this for a moment. See if you notice any changes in your sense doors. All right, you can continue in that mudra if you'd like, because another tool to bring in our toolkit are the tools that can clear our sense of hearing. So I'm going to invite us into a short time of meditation where you could continue or try Abhaya Mudra as a practice for this meditation. But I also brought along a crystal singing bowl today. And I'd like to play that. So while I play it, you'll have the option to sit and listen or sit and try Abhaya Mudra. But this singing bowl is a modern form of the metal singing bowls that date back to ancient Tibet. And the music of the bowl is a vibration that will create many tones and is thought to have some healing properties for our body. Some people don't like the sound of the bowl. It can make a lot of sound and it can be intense. And if it's too loud for you, you might want to cover your ears, or you might want to move to the back of the worship space, and that's all right. I invite you to take care of yourself. So I'll play the chime for 2 minutes or so. We'll have a little silence after that, and then we'll transition to the offertory. While I play the bowl, notice where in your body you're aware of vibration. So I'll invite you to loosen up your body into a posture of relaxation. If your limbs are crossed, you might wish to uncross them. You might wish to put your hand in the Abhaya Mudra or another position that feels like it brings you some focus. And let's begin.
time in our service when we offer our commitment and generosity. We are here today because of the love and faith of generations of members and friends who believe in this community and who have gone before us. We carry on the work they began and will shepherd the story forward for those who follow us. For the life and health of this congregation and its ministries, this morning's offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you for your generosity.
This prayer is adopted from the prayer of Shantideva, an 8th century Buddhist monk and major source of inspiration for the Dalai Lama, who reference the original prayer often. There are many translations, some of which contain the whole text, some of which do not. This adaptation is by Reverend Karen Johnson. May I be a guard for those who need protection. When I seek protection, may I find it and share it. For those who wish to cross to a further shore, may I be a boat, a raft, a bridge. May I be open to the companionship of others as I make my way to places still before me. May I be a lamp in the darkness for all who seek it. May the light never be extinguished from my own sight and my own heart. May I be a resting place for the weary and be healing medicine for all who are sick. May I know the salve of others for my own afflictions, whether of the body, of the mind, or of the heart. Where others see scarcity, may I see a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles. As part of the boundless multitudes of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, freedom from sorrow, and may I delight in our common existence. Holding most tenderly to those with broken hearts, let us sit together in stillness.
The reading today is by Pema Chodron from The Places That Scare You, A Guide to Fearlessness in Difficult Times. If we were to ask the Buddha, what is bodhicitta, he might tell us that this word is easier to understand than to translate. He might encourage us to seek out ways to find its meaning in our own lives. He might tantalize us by adding that it is only bodhicitta that heals, that bodhicitta is capable of transforming the hardest of hearts and the most prejudiced and fearful minds. Citta means mind, and also heart or attitude. Bodhi means awake, enlightened, or completely open. Sometimes the completely open heart and mind of bodhicitta is called the soft spot, a place as vulnerable and tender as an open wound. It is equated in part with our ability to love. Even the cruelest people have this soft spot. Even the most vicious animals love their offspring. As Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche put it, everybody loves something, even if it's only tortillas. Bodhicitta is also equated in part with compassion, our ability to feel the pain that we share with others. Without realizing it, we continually shield ourselves from this pain because it scares us. We put up protective walls made of opinions, prejudices, and strategies, barriers that are built on a deep fear of being hurt. These walls are further fortified by emotions of all kinds: anger, craving, indifference, jealousy and envy, arrogance and pride. But fortunately for us, the soft spot, our innate ability to love and to care about things, is like a crack in these walls that we erect. It's a natural opening in the barriers we create when we're afraid. With practice, we can learn to find this opening. We can learn to seize that vulnerable moment: love, gratitude, loneliness, embarrassment, inadequacy, to awaken bodhicitta.
I started to learn about Buddhist meditation about 15 years ago. I was a total beginner, seeking out meditation as an alternative medical treatment. I was very goal-oriented. I wanted to bring relief to stubborn physical pain left over from an injury sustained as a teen. When I began, total beginner that I was, my assumption was that meditation involved stillness and clearing the mind. As I studied and practiced more, I realized that meditation, like prayer, comes in different forms. Some varieties cultivate moment-to-moment awareness, mindfulness meditation, for example. Other meditation forms develop attention and focus, like a mantra meditation or a mudra meditation. I learned that meditation can happen in stillness, can happen while walking, and here's a modern technique: while doing the dishes. So it took me longer to understand that not only could you be still or move or have a different focus in your meditation, but that some forms of meditation are about tending to the emotions, specifically the heart. As I achieved relief from pain through my meditation practice, lasting relief, I realized that meditation was a path I wanted to follow for the rest of my life, a spiritual practice I would cultivate primarily in the Insight Buddhist tradition. And one of the most important Buddhist teachings that I've experienced is what Pat referred to in the reading, the concept in Buddhism that the mind and heart are not so separate, that word citta describes the close relationship between the mind and the heart. That word comes from Sanskrit and Pali, the language of the Buddha, and that's where I'd like to dwell for the rest of our service, in that citta, that heart-mind place in us. What can we do to cultivate the citta? In Buddhism, there are 4 teachings that relate most directly to the heart, and these are in support of developing citta. They're called the Brahma-viharas. The term Brahma-vihara literally means dwelling place of Brahmas. The Brahmas are Buddhist gods that live in the higher heavens and dwell in 4 loving qualities: unlimited goodwill, unlimited compassion, unlimited joy, and unlimited equanimity. The teachings of the Buddha encourage humans to move towards these dwelling places, towards goodwill, called metta, towards compassion, called karuna, towards joy, called mudita, and towards equanimity, called upekkha. What moves me as a practitioner of the teachings of the Buddha is how the Brahma Viharas help me strengthen and stretch my capacity to love. The practices themselves are, of course, important and instrumental, but even that teaching feels so valuable to me. For in each of these dwelling places, there are particular approaches to meditation. Most of us perhaps have heard of a metta meditation, a loving kindness meditation. That takes the form of wishing that may I be well, may I be peaceful, may you be well, may you be peaceful. May we all be well, may we all be peaceful. May all beings be well, may all beings be at peace. And indeed, that is the format for a loving kindness or a metta meditation. And for each of these Brahma Viharas, there are approaches to take to develop compassion, to develop joy, to develop equanimity. But I'd like to reflect more broadly on what these 4 concepts of love can teach about what it means to be a loving human being in the world. Something I've come to learn is that the love that is possible in our hearts and minds, our citta, is not limited to love for family, love for a romantic partner, or love for a child or an animal. We love in having goodwill towards others. We love in feeling compassion for the earth. We love in taking joy in a stranger's good fortune. And we love when we cultivate practices that bring peace, that bring serenity to ourselves and to others. How big love can be. What a universal love. Because to be in contact with a big love means to open the heart big and wide. And in the words of Joanna Macy, the heart that breaks open can contain the entire universe. And to encounter this expansive love, Buddhist spiritual practices help ground us, because what often opens our heart to this big love is heartbreak. That quote comes from Joanna Macy, who is a Buddhist and an ecologist. She is known for a practice called the work that reconnects us. Trainings that open people's minds and hearts to have more capacity to face and address the heartbreak of climate change. I first learned about this work at the Unitarian Universalist Rowe Center in Western Massachusetts. I volunteered there in 2009 for a few months as a work study intern. And Joanna Macy offered workshops there for many years, and now her students do as well. Although I didn't study directly with Joanna Macy, I read her books, and I was moved by her insistence that we must cultivate inner courage to take action on complex, dangerous, and global issues like climate change, because the stakes involved are so high that sometimes the feelings involved can paralyze us. The devastation of entire ecosystems, the tragic death and loss of species extinctions, these are losses that we don't have much practice grieving about in our personal lives, or even ever before in our human lifespan. A few years after I was at the Row Camp, where Joanna Macy often teaches, I had the opportunity to take a workshop with someone trained in the work that reconnects. And that work generated so much love in me. Although we weren't taught about the 4 Brahma Viharas, I felt that each of them was stoked by learning in community, to be with, to walk towards that grief that accompanies climate change. First, that work stoked my compassion for the suffering of others and of the planet. It activated my goodwill. It enhanced my ability to see my face in another's eye and wish to respond with care. And it evoked a kind of joyful gratitude for all the beauty that there is in this world and the possibilities of goodness. And of course, it activated my grief that all this beauty could be lost. And here it opened me to the wisdom of equanimity, the kind of love we can embrace to find a sense of inner peace when the world is on fire. How to find inner peace when every week a new climate disaster will unfold. To be able to love and act while also allowing ourselves to grieve. The heart that breaks open can contain the entire universe. When Joanna Macy says this, I hear that the heart that breaks open can contain every kind of emotion: fear, despair, depression, terror, hopelessness. In there too is the possibility of love. The Brahma Viharas, we can choose them. We can choose to love in these 4 ways. We can choose compassion. We can choose loving kindness. We can choose joy. We can choose equanimity. As Unitarian Universalists, we know that love is a choice. We believe that love is more than a sentiment, that it is an action. Now, the Buddhist approach to love has matured for over 2,500 years. And Unitarian Universalism's commitment to love is rooted in both our Unitarian and our Universalist heritage. So we have a few hundred years of practice. Unitarian Universalists are strong in our beliefs, and we're also young in creating daily practices and rituals that strengthen our capacity to live out our values. So it's up to us to create those rituals, to find those practices, the ones that work for us, the ones that work for our community, and to teach and share them with one another, to strengthen our community in this way. I am grateful to be a student of Buddhism and to study practices that cultivate active, powerful love in our citta, our heart, mind. And I've shared some of them today. meditation with a mudra, clearing our sense doors. And I wonder, what are your daily practices or weekly rituals that help your heart choose love? What helps your heart find peace when your heart is breaking or your heart is bursting full? There is so much in this world that can break our hearts. Beloveds, may our spiritual practices help us move through the heartbreak. Alongside the ache and our pain, may our hearts awaken to compassion, to peace, to a greater love. May it be so.
Let's read together the New Zealand Lord's Prayer. It's printed in your order of service. Eternal Spirit, Earth Maker, Now let's join in singing the closing hymn, number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
Mary Oliver's Mysteries, Yes. Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of lambs, how rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity, while we ourselves dream of rising. How two hands touch and the bonds will never be broken. How people come from delight or the scars of damage to the comfort of a poem. Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answers. Let me keep company always with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads.
As I extinguish the chalice, let's read together the words we use to close our service, printed in the order of service. We extinguish this flame,
but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These carry in our hearts until we are together again. May you go in peace and go in love.